The Washington Redskins host the Baltimore Ravens tomorrow in their third preseason game. The only guy who scored a touchdown in their last preseason game is our next guest, Brandon Lloyd, Redskins wide receiver. Thank you for joining us on the Hot List. Brandon, what do you expect from yourself in 2007?
To continue to be consistent, make the plays that are thrown to me, and continue to gain the trust of the quarterbacks that are in there.
The last couple of years you had in San Francisco, you averaged 45 catches, 650 yards, 5 touchdowns. Last year, they traded you to the Redskins, 23 catches, 365 yards, no touchdowns. How do you explain that?
You can't really explain that. I'm not really, I'm not going to sit up here and give you a bunch of excuses, but I know that going into this year and my talks in the offseason with Coach Gibbs and Al Saunders, that my opportunities on the ball are going to increase this year, and that's really all I can focus on.
What are the biggest things that Gibbs and Saunders wanted from you in the offseason?
Just to be consistent, and gain the trust of the quarterbacks and improve in all areas of being a receiver. And that's pretty much the goal every offseason that I go into is, to be a better pass catcher, be a better route runner, and be a better run blocker. And so those are the things I was already focusing on. And so, it was kind of good to hear that from them.
What do you think prevented you from being so consistent this last year?
No idea. I think, I like to think it was, the opportunities, going from #1 receiver in San Francisco to #2 receiver here, and then playing alongside 3 awesome receivers and Santana Moss, who's a Pro Bowler, and Chris Cooley, who's one of the premier tight ends in the league, and Randall L. So I think it was a lot of guys who needed to get touches on the ball before me and Santana and Cooley, and it's just opportunities were down.
Now, by a few accounts, you came to camp in good shape, bulky, ready to go. What was your goal in terms of training in the offseason?
I know I want to be stronger, and I knew I want to be faster going into this season. And gaining the weight was just kind of a byproduct of working so hard, and that was pretty much my goal. It's just kind of, I don't even really notice it. I came back from working out in Arizona, and guys were like, "Holy cow, you've been working out," and I was like, "Oh, I couldn't even really tell." So I'm still getting used to it.
Well, you also had a pretty unique experience in the off season, as I read up about you in the Cayman Islands, doing some charity work for physically challenged kids regarding scuba diving. How'd you get involved in that? What was that like?
Well, one of my friends works at the NFL, works for NFL Films, and as one of the cameramen, and he called me and said, "Hey, I'm doing this piece down in the Cayman Islands, and the quarterback challenge was down there and whatnot." And he was like, "Hey, would you like to come help with these kids?" And I was like, "No problem, anything." And it just turned out to be one of the best experiences, and just seeing the courage and the strength of these young kids. And you always go into those kind of situations where you're like, okay, what am I going to have to do to cheer these kids up, because of their situation? And I went down there, and they cheered me up. They really gave me something to laugh at, to smile, and they really showed me a good time.
And what's the scuba like in Cayman?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't do it.
You didn't go? No, I thought you were going with the kids.
Yeah, I was just sitting on the boat. I was like, everything would be null and void if I went in that water with scuba gear on.
You don't want any sharks coming after you, and neither do the Washington Redskins.
Oh, heck no.
I'm sure some of the kids, if they're big football fans, they know you from what we at ESPN like to call the Brandon Lloyd catch against the Seattle Seahawks just after Christmas 2003. How often are you asked about the catch?
Everybody asks me about that one, but I get more about that one in the Giants game that was called back.
Called back, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, "Man, you should have won an ESPY for that one." And I was like, "You guys don't understand. It was called back." And so the play didn't even count. And they were like, "No way." And they see all these these countdowns in which it's it's like 24 out of top 25 and stuff like that. So I mean, it's cool.
How often do you watch it?
I haven't seen it in a while. I haven't seen it in a while.
You don't have a copy of the DVD that you can just hit at your home computer every, couple days?
No, I needed it last year.
Well, look, I mean, you now got another year with Jason Campbell throwing you the ball, and he bruised his knee in the last preseason game against the Steelers. What do you think is going to determine Jason's success as a quarterback this season?
I think Jason's success is really going to depend on the guys catching the ball. I've played with a bunch of young quarterbacks in my career so far, in my short career so far, and I know that the most important thing for me in dealing with a young quarterback was, one, not putting a lot on his plate by demanding anything out of him. That's one thing. I do not demand anything. I do not ask for the ball. I do not request anything because his plate's already full. So I just I leave him alone, and I say the best thing that I can do is be where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there, and that's kind of how I approach it. And so Jason's success is definitely going to depend on the veteran guys around him: Santana, Antoine, James Thrash, me, Chris Cooley, Liddell, Clinton out the backfield.
Now, certainly there's a lot of optimism about the Redskins. There always is for every NFL team in the summer. But at Illinois, which is where you went to college, they're finally optimistic about a season for the first time since you and Kurt Kittner and the gang left. With all this buzz about Ron Zook and his recruiting class and Juice Williams. What are your expectations for the Illini?
I think it should be good. It's funny because the whole dynamics of college sports have changed so much with the way kids are leaving school so early. But I had Aurelius Ben's high school coach on my radio show last year, shortly after he committed to the University of Illinois. And it seems like, his goals are to kind of turn that program around. And it reminded me a lot of what I wanted to do when I went to the program. And, the guys that we had committed, the handful of guys from Missouri, we had talked on the phone, and we were kind of like, hey, we want to turn this program around. We want to do something special. We want to win championships. We want to go to bowl games. And it seems like that is the goal, and especially bringing in Ron Zook, who has that experience dealing with high-profile programs. Hopefully he can bring that to the University of Illinois. No,
certainly they can try to emulate you and the success you've had in your career. And we wish you the best of luck this season. Hope we get to talk to you again soon. Brandon Lloyd, thanks for joining us on the Hot List.
Just call me up. I'll be on anytime.
We're going to hold you to that.